Sometimes I get better at singing, and sometimes it feels a lot like the weekend. I do my best thinking when I'm drinking.
And welcome to Line Drunk. I'm back with Matthew Kresh.
Hi there, how you doing, Lee?
Doing good. Okay, so you chose Conan the Barbarian.
I did.
Can I ask why you chose this film?
This is a cult film, obviously. This is one of my favorite movies. I don't even know when I first saw it, but I was definitely too young to have been watching it when I saw it. Because I remember the scene when he's with the Crom, the witch, and he throws her in the fire after he's banging her. And I'm just looking at my dad like, what is going on in this movie? And my dad's like, oh, I don't remember this part.
Sure, he doesn't. He remembers that part.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that movie has been imprinted into my memory since before I can recall. But the more I watch it, the more I fall in love with it and find more little pieces of it that I'm like, wow, this movie's actually a piece of art. It's great. It's hokey, it's funny, it's an adventure film, but it's also got a really good message behind it, and it fits right in the world of like a cross between Lord of the Rings and I don't know. It's like not quite Game of Thrones, but there's like a different spot in there where it fits, where it's like also got the magic and the comedy is what makes it its own thing.
I can appreciate all this.
Yeah, it was something so special, and the narration to the way it's told as like a fable, like as if it's actual history. Something about that, the saga, and how it was like you were stumbling across this story. And I think everything about the movie, from the score to the action, even the acting is great, for what it is. It's, it's one of those movies that knew exactly what it was supposed to be and do, so they didn't need to be, Leonardo DiCaprio moments in Gangs of New York. It just needed to hit the nail on the head every time, kind of thing, and almost be spot on. Of course, that's what he says, kind of thing, or of course, that's how they say it. It's like so cliche, but then you think like, no, they're the ones who invented the cliche. That's why it's cliche. They were the ones who first said it.
I don't think I would have hired Arnold Schwarzenegger after watching this film.
No. Well, he had
Well,
just come off of, I'm pretty sure this was his first big movie after winning Mr. Olympia. So he was like, he'd never really done any big movies. He was just the man, the biggest man in the world.
yeah. I was looking what films he had done before, but there was nothing that I knew about.
Yeah, nothing of any prominence. This was his real breakout. And yeah, I was talking about the score. Like, I remember in college, there'd be times where I would just throw on that movie soundtrack and do homework and listen to it front to back. And it's like truly epic and well written and right up there with Star Wars, because it's a full orchestra and the operatic choral section. And my brother was telling me that apparently the director was like, I want 12 horns. And they're like, well, you only need 8, because anything after 8, you can't actually like comprehend it. You can't hear it. It doesn't get picked up. He's like, I want 12 horns. They're like, okay. And they just did it. So he's just like one of those guys that just wanted it to be that much more epic for whatever fucking reason. Like the guy Tchaikovsky was like, I want a real cannon to fire off in my orchestra. They're like, a cannon or a boom? He's like, a live cannon, not a blank. It's going to shoot around. I want to hear it doesn't sound the same if there's no round coming out.
The music did change a lot of the scenes.
Yeah.
Which I'll
And
get
like
to.
it has such versatility too. The music from like the beginning with the kind of cryptic, creepy, like eerily floating in the mist in the mountains when they're telling him the riddle in the beginning, and it's like starting the story. It's very much like Lord of the Rings when she's telling them the story of the rings and everything. And then when like the actual battle happens and the drums dun, 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 it's like super explosive and over the top but like powerful. Like when you hear it, if you like it, it'll well emotion inside of you if you listen to it on itself. And then there's the whole part when they go into the castle and it like dancey and like they're playing in that orgy scene. And it like creates such a world unto itself where it's like it feels like its own culture, like it created a new world that didn't exist but totally could have existed.
So I was reading, and I don't know if it was the director or the writer, but that this was supposed to be 4 hours long.
Oh, I totally could see how that is.
And the studio made them say cut it down. I wonder if it would have still been I wonder if you would have still liked it at 4 hours long. I wonder if it would have provided more information at 4 hours long, or if it would have still kept with like the very few words spoken to the entire movie.
Yeah, that I was honestly saying I took a class in grad school with a couple theater film actors, and they were telling us about storytelling without lines and how often that happens in film, where there's a whole scene and nothing is said other than just looks. And the fact that a lot of these learning how to play these scenes is a skill unto itself because, yeah, the scene might be the guy walks across the street and he gets in his car and he looks over the street and there's a girl that he used to date and he goes to say something to her and then she goes and kisses a guy and he's like, oh. So he gets in his car and he just drives off. In reality, there's no girl across the street. He's not seeing any of that.
Right.
They filmed that on another day, actually. He wasn't there. They never saw that. He had to just do that all in his head. He's looking at a camera and 6 other guys like, and a boom guy like sweating. So it's like the ability to do that convincingly and put all those pieces together and still tell story just through images on the screen in the same way that like a stage director can tell an image or tell a story based on people's spatial relationship to each other on a stage, like who's further upstage, who's further back or closer to the audience. They normally have the higher status, or who's sitting down, who's physically higher or closer to the other person. Like all these things give the audience influence as to who these people are to one another. If somebody gets so close where they're face to face and they're like nose to nose, it's like, well, they're going to fight or fuck. Not everybody gets that close. That's telling a story in itself. And then you can manipulate it so much with a camera, obviously. And one of my favorite scenes is in the beginning when his mother is beheaded and James Earl Jones, a young James Earl Jones.
Yeah, I wrote a note for that too.
Awesome. He takes that sword, the sword of the father. It's like in that one shot, you have the boy. He has his mom's hand here, and he's looking up at the dad, and the dad's looking at the mom, and the mom's standing there with the sword. And then it cuts back to James Earl Jones' turn, and he turns his back on her, and then he turns and he just cuts her fucking head off, and then it cuts to Conan, and the head just drop in frame, and he looks up, and the body's just headless, and it falls, and then it cuts back to what's his name just looking at the sword, and there's 2 people behind him, and the double-headed snake thing in the sky, and in that one shot you're seeing his 3 malefactors for the rest of his life and the image that he'll hunt for the rest of his life. And it's like he's searing that image in his brain, and it's like that is exactly what the director wanted you to see. Nothing else was wasted on that frame space. No lines were said in it. The amount of music that was used and the way it was used to slowly build up and dun, 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 and then it like wells back and gets silent kind of while the smoke comes in. It's just like I think it's like a 3-minute scene. So slow. Like you're saying, it's a long movie for not a lot of things said. And I think that's why I like that kind of style with films, if it's done well, because sometimes it can feel like it's dragging on painfully. It's like, why am I watching this?
Right.
But when it's done right, and when it does cool action scenes in the middle, and the action scenes in the middle are done right, it's like, okay, you've earned my seat. I'm going to sit here. You can tell me whatever the fuck you want. And yeah, it goes from that one scene where you see his dad get mauled by dogs. And that whole movie, every action scene in that movie, I love deeply because of the amount of practical effects, and the stage combat is all people are actually getting hit with things. Blood packs are actually on the people. There's like zero CGI in that fucking movie, except for when what's his name turns into a snake. And I'm pretty sure that's even a fucking animatronic.
Probably.
You know, like it looks so good. Like, yeah, you could tell it's a little weird or hokey and fake, but like, I'd rather see that than CGI.
Yes. I had thoughts on that too, but
it's more visceral.
You ready
like
for
when his face first starts to push through? It's so like, what the fuck am I watching right now?
Yeah, I'll bring that up later.
Yeah, please do. But yeah, you were saying like from that time on, for I think maybe another 20 minutes when we go through him, you know, Arnold going from a little boy to the point that he's freed.
The transition was kind of funny, seeing these little scrawny legs to like a teenage legs to like a grown-up man.
Okay.
Legs.
I read The Wheel of Pain. I read an awesome thing about what the Wheel of Pain is. And it's like, what, like, so what you're saying, like, they just take these slaves and they make them grind salt or grain all day? Is it a waste of slaves? Like, what's the point of it? Is it just an allegory for life or some shit? And it's like, no. The Wheel of Pain is exactly what it is. It is a tool made by the masters of war from the East that they go out into the world and they raid and they take these slaves from villages where they know strong people to be from, and they bring them back to this wheel and they make them work on the wheel because all they are to do is to push endlessly day in, day out through all kinds of weather and shit with no meaning, no purpose, and they eventually let go of what it is to be a person. They're just a tool, and all they do is survive for the sake of survival. And so they've like broken their ability to be a person almost. They put away the feeling of pain and the feeling of self. So then when they take him out of there and then they just throw him in the pit once he's like a full grown man and he's in the gladiatorial pit, they have no fear that like he's going to win. All the pit is there for is to just reawaken the instinct of survival to fight for it.
Right.
Because now it's been repressed. It's still all in there. And that's why when he starts getting bitten, he's like, what the fuck? He's like confused by the fact that it's happening. But then he starts just fighting and he just kills the guy and everybody's cheering. And he's like, what the fuck? He's kind of confused. And then he keeps doing it and keeps doing it. And he realizes he's really good at it. And he's like, oh, I can do this all the time. I'm perfect at this. He's been perfected. And now they're like, okay, this is what we were building. A man within, the warrior within. That's what the wheel is grinding out of the man. It weeds out the weak. And then once they've survived the pits, then they send him to the east to learn the ways of the weapons in the war.
That makes a lot more sense because I was like, why are they just going in a circle? Because it wasn't attached to anything. It was
can't just be that.
It probably wasn't good though to send a white man in to kill a black man.
No. He had the shaved down teeth and shit too.
Are you ready for your first trivia question?
Let's do it.
What did the opening scene say? There was like a quote. And who wrote the quote?
In the time when Atlantis swallowed the...
It was written on the screen.
Oh, wait, it was written on the screen?
It was written on the screen.
Oh, it's not the quote I'm doing?
No.
Damn it, I'm already wrong. Fuck. I don't know. I give up.
That which does not kill us makes us stronger.
Oh,
Friedrich something. I don't know.
okay.
My next question. Can you spell Schwarzenegger?
Oh. Schwarzanegger.
Close. It was an
Damn.
E-N, not an A-N after Z.
Damn. I'm German. I know the SCH at least.
Who directed the film?
Oliver Stone.
No.
No? Oh, he wrote it.
He wrote it. He did
Damn
not
it.
direct it.
Damn it. Oh, I'm doing bad.
The co-writer also is the one that directed it, but John Milius.
John Milius. I would have known it.
It's okay. I don't know who he is. I did. One note I wrote down was it was traumatizing to see your husband and dad get killed the way the dad got killed with the axe
Oh my God.
and then the dogs attacking him.
Yes. Yeah, I think if you go, by in a list form, everything, like every bad act that happens to Conan versus every other character in a script, he has it the worst.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten everything happened to him.
And then you mentioned James Earl Jones. He looked so young. And then he has like a mullet in a way. Like
The straightest hair. It's so perfect.
long mullet.
Do you think it's a wig or no?
It has to be a wig. But it looked not, I was trying, like it looked like a pop star kind of thing.
Yes. He had he was one of Kiss's backup singers. Or not Kiss's, Prince's backup singers.
Okay, where do you
Very haunting eyes, though. He's his face, his look in that movie was truly well cast. I wonder how many other things he had done prior to that. I know he was a stage actor.
I don't know, but it said he was
filmed.
chosen last minute.
Yeah.
Because someone else couldn't do it, so he came in to do it.
His voice, always his voice is great, but his voice when he gives that monologue at the end, when he's shouting over the group of people, it just sounds like it's being projected from another, it almost sounds like it's being doubled, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, when they double Kurt Cobain's voice when he sings? I don't think they're doing that, though. It's
just him.
Reverberating on itself.
Do you know how long it takes before Arnold Schwarzenegger actually says something in the movie? I wrote down the time. I paused the movie.
Shit. I'm trying to remember what it actually is. What is the first thing he says?
Oh, I don't care what he says. Just how long did it take for him to actually say
No,
it?
I know. I'm just trying to think when that part is.
He's sitting.
Yeah, I'm going to guess at least 22 minutes.
Close. 24.
24?
24.
I know it's a long time.
It was 24 minutes and 3 seconds before he actually said a word.
Is it when they ask him what is best in life?
Yeah.
Yeah. To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
Speaking of women, that first woman he sleeps with, I like the quote that she says. He just walks up to the house and she says, she says, "Do you not wish to warm yourself by my fire?" It was very seductive.
Yeah.
It was so cheesy. And it was also a very awkward sex scene.
Yes.
Very awkward. And
I always remember when he's sitting there and he's eating. He's just kind of chilling, and she throws some shit in the fire, and it makes it a spur. She's just "Oh, cool. You fucking eat my food, crazy." He's not impressed with her, and she's just trying to fuck him so bad.
Yeah. Oh, and he does. Well,
oh yeah.
He does.
He throws
the fire.
I laughed so hard when that happened because she just flies. He throws her like she's nothing,
which made it less awkward.
Yeah.
Somehow. Was there bestiality in this with a llama?
Yes. Yes. He says it too. He's like, look at that. And then he punches a camel. He really did that.
And your dad let you watch this?
Yes. Yeah. The one dude is freaking banging a llama. And then Arnold, because he's like sickened by the fact that that's what that camel's there for, after he bumps into it, punches that camel in the face.
Although it's not the camel's fault.
No, it's not.
I will say all the sets in this movie are very incredible.
Cool fact. One of the castles from afar, you see it in a shot on a mountain, was done with forced perspective where they had a glass and they painted the castle. They put it right up on the lens and it sat perfectly on the edge of the mountainscape and blended in with the color. So it wasn't really there at all.
That's cool.
Yeah, cool camera tricks.
Arnold and his acting with the anaconda.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if it was him doing his best to not break the thing because it's like, what are you going to do? It was dated, you know.
Well,
it was a weak prop.
I don't think snakes have gotten a whole lot better in films anyway.
No.
Not big
My
snakes.
favorite part of it is how what's-his-name hits it with the arrows 3 times and pins it to the wall. I thought that was cool. And then the excessiveness of how Arnold fucking hacks it up. He doesn't have to do that.
No.
He gives it 1, 2, and fuck this thing's up. Like Eowyn did less effort to take off the Nazgul's head in Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then he goes and has sex with the other lady, which this sex scene was less awkward because of the music. That was what I wanted to bring up. The music made it better.
Uh-huh. They're feeding each other and stuff. It was very wholesome.
There was no intimacy coordinator on that set.
I don't think it existed then.
Probably not. It probably needed to.
I think, yeah, no, I'll save that.
I will say this film had a lot of extras.
Yeah. Impressive amount of extras.
Yes. Like
I always enjoy movies that do that, you know, put number of people on the screen and don't rely on CGI like we were saying before. Because you could just tell right away. It just looks different. Feels different. When they're walking through the city, it really creates a world. And, you know, it's the same extras doubled and doubled over and over again, probably.
Well, there was a few scenes that just, like, you could see had a lot of people all in the white robes.
Yes, that was a massive scene.
Yeah, that was, it felt very, it did felt very cultish, very like, who was the Kool-Aid people?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah, they're all going to set themselves on fire.
Because he said, "Come to me, my child," and she just jumps off the mountain.
Dude, yeah, there's some hardcore shit in there.
Yes, for a child, yes, you should not. I mean, I was watching like John Grisham movies at 8, so that's probably not any better. Oh, Arnold's crazy laugh when he was crucified on the tree.
Yes. Arnold is just a prize when it comes to having to laugh. But, you know, he was on the verge of whatever. Death. Insanity.
Yes. He did a lot of very interesting facial acting. I don't know how to put that, but...
He certainly commits.
He does. Like when they were sneaking into the cave and they came upon the giant orgy, his eyes got really, really big.
Yeah. It's such another weird scene, too.
The other two were just like, it's normal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I love the camo they wear for that scene. The smoke, the shadow camo to blend in with the rocks and stuff.
They did a good job with that, yeah. It was a very weird scene. And then going back to James Earl Jones turning into a snake, he looked... I hate to say this because it sounds bad, but he looked like a monkey for a minute.
Oh yeah, no, his whole
Like,
face
because
drops down,
yeah. And then I was
and his
shocked.
hands roll in. That part was always silly. And then all of a sudden he's just a snake. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I always laugh at that part when they start fighting. How Arnold walks in and he just like walks in and just kicks over a flaming torch for no reason. Just like he walks in with his sword. Fuck this thing. Just like sets the thing on fire. Just as much damage as he can cause.
Yeah. And then the snake goes into his little tunnel.
Little hidey hole.
Yes. Okay. And then the next note that I wrote down was they're leaving after attacking everybody, and they're on the horses, and James Earl Jones' character uses a snake
Yes.
as an arrow and shoots the girl.
Yes.
And she's dying.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, "Let me breathe my last breath into your mouth."
I don't know. I've always thought that was a very lovely last moment for her. And most people I've watched that movie with always have this reaction where they think it's so funny. And I'm like, it's, that's her lover. It's like such her, she wanted to, like you were saying, this is actually what I was going to say before we were talking about the intimacy coordinators and how they were, their sex scene. I always love her line where she's like, let someone else pass by in the night. Like how she was like, I've always dreamt of being the people warm inside the tent. And it's like, that's when they were. It's like, Game of Thrones stole that. The Jon Snow, like, let's just stay in the cave kind of thing. It's like they should have. So yeah, I always feel very sad and heartbroken for her.
So you feel sad, and the rest of us are laughing. Okay.
I know.
It's just a weird thing to breathe into somebody. I don't know. Unless you're giving
It's very
CPR.
Shakespearean.
Yeah. Well, and then her burial looked like they were burying her at Stonehenge.
Yeah. Very Viking burial style.
And my first thought was that both women he slept with ended up in the fire.
Yeah, I guess that's just the thing he's got to do after he fucks him. He's got to burn him.
I guess so. I'm done with you. Okay, and then they were setting up the traps. I don't know if you I know you didn't have this thought, as in however old you were watching this. I was thinking it felt like Kevin McAllister setting up the house for Home Alone.
Yeah.
Like all these traps. We're going to get them. Yeah.
Oh, I love that part. That's one of the things I love about that fight scene is that it's not super high scale. There's maybe 30 guys against just the four of them or the three of them. But it's the fact that they've got the advantage of the hill. They've got their little traps and they set it up in that way where the shots are filmed in a way where you see how they're luring them into the traps.
Oh, it was
as
a great
opposed to
scene.
just like cut to something happens. You see the guy Subutai run through the one lane, and then Arnold catch him from the other side, which brings the horse in. Subutai gets him with the spear. And one of my favorite things in that whole fight scene is the spear. You see it bend at one point if you're paying attention to it hard. But I think that's okay because even sometimes the metal would bend to punch through. But other than that one time where you kind of catch it, every time he's stabbing somebody, it's not just like, it's like he stabs in and he's pushing the dude down with the spear.
Yeah.
Like you could tell he put it in him. And
he's getting his revenge.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just like you see the functionality of like, oh, that's like, you're not stabbing spears all the way in and through the other person all the time, or like, it's just a much more practical way that would look.
Yeah.
Same with when Conan's hitting guys with the axes. They're like just clubbing the actual outside, blood squirts, but they're not like slicing through people.
The last axe he uses at the end is a very big axe, so.
Yes. Yeah, they find all those antique, ancient weapons from that tomb.
And then his dead girlfriend comes back to help him.
Yeah, the Valkyrie.
And I thought it was probably because she breathed her last breath in him.
No, well, there's a thing, the Helm of Awe. There's like a symbol, it kind of looks like an asterisk almost, but there's a bunch more lines on it. It's a Nordic rune, and it essentially means divine intervention,
Okay.
or like the Valkyries. And the belief is that if you're in combat and you're favorable with Odin or with the Valkyries, and if you're doing right by them and fighting honorably, and something happens and you're about to get killed, but it's not your time yet. Like, you know how, like, if you've ever been in a car and you almost get in a car accident, but some crazy freak thing saves you, you're like, I should have died there, but someone was watching out for me. It's like they would say that was the Valkyries if it was in battle. So
Okay.
it's like clearly he was about to get killed, and all of a sudden the light flashed in the guy's eyes. Maybe she wasn't there. That's why he looked. He saw that. He looked back, and she was gone. And like the guy was just blinded for a half second. So it's like, again, did that really happen? Was that just metaphor for what happened? But the idea is that it was the divine intervention of the Valkyrie.
How often do you watch this movie?
Maybe once a year.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I watch it more than Godfather.
Okay, so the back of James Earl Jones when he's standing on top of the mountain or whatever. Honestly, that looked like Predator to me because the hair, the black hair,
Oh my
like the
God.
costume that he had. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. He was a fit, thin dude, and I really love his armor. His helmet in this movie, the big, long nose thing. His costume was so cool. And he had those, like, double pinwheeled snakes, daggers. It was kind of similar to, like, what Khal Drogo had, almost.
Yeah.
But, yeah, then he had that super long mop head, which then, when fucking Arnold decapitates him, one of the coolest decapitations, I think, in history of cinema,
Yes.
because it just takes multiple hits, and then when it's done, it goes silent. There's no score for a second. He's just like, it makes everybody look at it. They're all like, and then when he throws it down, they're like, ah, and then you hear it silent, and then you hear it click, clack, and it sounds so like
That's what I was
a
going to
piece
point
of
out.
wood.
It doesn't sound like a head would be hitting the ground like that.
Have you ever heard somebody get hit in the head with a baseball?
No. Does it sound like
Uh,
that?
it sounds like wood, man. Your skull's just like, it is, and if he just threw that, maybe 50 feet onto a rock pavement, like the skull would crack and blood would go everywhere. It was such a mess. Yeah. Oh, if you've ever heard somebody snap a bone or something, it's just like, it'll turn your stomach instantly. Like I was talking with somebody before about with stunts and with fighting and stuff. It doesn't look or sound like you expect it to because movies give you a false expectation a lot of times.
Right.
The reality is, when people get hurt, it sometimes looks funny. Why do you think all of America's funniest videos are people hurting themselves? If you take out the laugh track, it's like, ooh, that guy really fucked himself up. You actually feel bad for a lot of these people if you thought about the injuries they're sustaining. And if you look at some people's reaction when they get like electrocuted, they're like, and it's like, whoa, he just spasmed. That looked funny, but it's like, oh, he lost all motor function is what
Right.
happened. That's what that just happens to look like.
Have you broken a lot of bones?
Um, nothing that substantial.
Okay.
Broken bones in my hand. Nothing that I've heard people snap. I heard a guy snap his shin once. Ugh. I heard a kid pop his clavicle one time, and that was like you're like, what was that? It couldn't have been what we all thought it was. The worst one, though, was when I heard the kid get hit because we were in baseball practice and we were learning how to do pickoffs, and the kid at the mound could throw like 80 miles an hour,
Dang.
and so he was stepping off and throwing over to first base, and the first baseman wasn't ready. He didn't know we were doing it yet, and he just takes one right in the fucking forehead and drops to the ground. It looked like he died, and he was completely out cold. Like we had to like slap him awake, and the coach was all freaked out. He had this huge hematoma on his head, looked like a cartoon almost, and it sounded like the ball hit a tree.
That's how
I was
Ashley
like,
Judd died in Simon Birch.
yeah, yeah, for real. That's a heartbreaking movie too.
It is.
Gosh.
My last comment about this film, how did the stone catch on fire at the end of the movie?
Because it was actually a set.
That's I know. It's just it's like this is not very realistic.
No, I don't know. Good point.
And it seems like they could have all thrown their torch onto the set instead of throwing in the water. But
Yeah,
that was
it was more.
the ultimate goal.
It was more symbolic for them to extinguish the flame, not by extinguishing themselves, but to put out. And then when Conan burns it, I think it's the symbolism of him completely burning his, what was plaguing him his whole life. But back to that thing about the Wheel of Pain, the last part about it was that when Conan, he has a necklace of the Wheel of Pain that he wears with him throughout his struggles, but then when he loses his lover, he wears her cross, or her little jewel.
Right.
And he starts taking the ways of emotion, and he loses a bit of the way of the warrior, and he starts losing some of his people that he cares for, and eventually he wins and defeats his doom. It's also doom, but it ends with him sitting. What does it say? He later ends with sitting on a throne with a jeweled crown on a troubled throne with a troubled brow. So it's like, sure, he made it. He's king, but he's troubled because he's still not happy after all of that. And when was he truly happy? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. When he was not concerned with the ways of human, when he was just a warrior, when he was the soldier that the Wheel of Pain made him, he was just, he found his purpose. It was interesting how he let go of it to find love, and then the love left him, and then he's left with this curse of, I guess, the better to have loved than never have loved, or whatever, loved and lost. But it's like, well, now he lives troubled forever. Before he was just kind of ignorantly happy.
What are your thoughts on the two sequels?
I never saw them.
Okay.
I've seen parts of them, and they're pretty hard to watch.
Okay. I was wondering if I should or not. Did you watch the remake with Jason Momoa?
I didn't. It's on Netflix, and when I was going to watch again the other night, I was very upset to see that the original, which was on there last week, was taken down, and now this one's up. And I think I might try it, but I feel like in 10 minutes I'm going to turn it off.
You probably won't like it.
Now I know.
Yeah, the remakes can be tough at times, especially when it's one of your favorite films.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest fan of Jason Momoa.
He's fine in the Fast and Furious franchise.
I never saw anything. I never even saw the first Fast and Furious.
Oh, it's good. You should watch it.
At least the first one?
Yeah.
Paul Walker?
They're fun. They get dumber and dumber as the movies progress, and crazier stunts, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah. The over-the-top crazy stunts, I'm just like, God, I'm not here for that.
I just use films and TV to escape reality anyway, so you're really escaping reality.
True.
I'd say watch the first two.
The first two? Okay.
Yeah. I think the third one's Tokyo Drift, and that has really nothing to do with...
I actually saw Tokyo Drift randomly. I was like, this is kind of weird and fun. But yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with any of the other ones.
No,
it's its own solo story.
Yes, but it does introduce Han, which he's in the other films.
He comes back.
Mm-hmm. So there's that.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll watch the first one for sure for the fact that it started it all,
Yeah. I don't know where it's playing. I think you have to rent it.
Isn't it Ava Longoria? Or am I being ignorant.
I don't remember. It is. I mean, it's Jordana Brewster.
There's a pretty Spanish lady.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. I shouldn't have said anything.
I was like, I don't know if she's in yeah, I don't know. Ja Rule's in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd watch it. It says it's on Prime.
Prime? Okay,
Mhm.
I got that. I kind of want to try Conan, but I don't think I have faith in it. So,
I don't know.
no.
Remakes aren't always the best. The only remake that I will stand by that I actually liked better than the original is the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
And I say that
I
because
feel like I've heard that before, too, though, that it was really good.
it was more of a storyline. Half of the original Texas Chainsaw was just that girl screaming her head off in the field for like 40 minutes. That's not a movie.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. So I think the remake with Jessica Biel did a better job at having the full story, keeping us entertained. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, man. That was fun.
Anytime.
My trivia was not up to par as well as I'd hoped, but clearly I know the movie.
You do.
Yeah.
You provided a lot more information than I would have.
Cool. Glad I could do that. I hope your viewers go to watch that movie themselves and enjoy it as much as I do and don't laugh at it like you did. Because it holds a special place in my heart.
There were just scenes that I laughed at, and it's fine.
No, I totally get why. Oh, man. I love that you brought up the bestiality scene. That's so funny.
I rewound it. I was like,
Okay,
did I see that
so-
correctly?
He even says it. He's like, look at that. What the fuck? So can we list all the terrible shit that happens to him real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so he has his father mauled by dogs.
And with the
His
axe.
huh?
He got hit by the
And the
axe
axe.
first, and then the dogs. Mm-hmm.
His mother's decapitated in front of him. His entire village is murdered. He's taken into slavery and put on the wheel of pain.
Child labor.
Child labor, slavery. He becomes a gladiator. He's forced to fight to the death. He then becomes like a sex slave thing where they're breeding him. Then they train him to be a warrior. He then gets freed and he's chased and hunted by wolves. And he's like living off on his own for a while. He screws his own god. He gets to bang his god. That's cool.
Throws her in the fire.
He gets caught by his main villain malefactor, who then crucifies him. His love of his life is killed in front of him. He's brought back from the dead. Like, holy fuck. What else? He's Jesus plus something here. He's Jesus, but he then went and killed Pontius Pilate. He came back from the dead and killed Pontius Pilate. And then he became king.
Which is why you probably need to see the 2 sequels to see how that happened.
Yeah. I know there's one where he's with, he's like fighting this fucking alien creature thing. And it's like in a massive mirror room. And it almost is like, it's not, but it might as well be like Conan in space.
Okay.
It's just so like, oh god, stop, bad dream. And Arnold's doing the most weird shit, you know. You know that meme where Arnold's getting spun around?
No.
And he's like, ah, by his feet. That's what that is from. It's from that one.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, maybe watch it just for that.
Okay.
But yeah, he's like, I remember seeing that clip where he's like fighting some alien creature. And I'm like, I would, no, thank you.
See, now I just want to watch Alien and Predator.
Much better movies. Not than Conan the Barbarian, but much better than Conan the Destroyer. Or the Conqueror, whichever one they are.
Good to know. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee. Yeah, this was awesome. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we'll do this again sometime.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll find something little less chaotic Conan, maybe something more serious.
Maybe. Where's the fun in
All right.
that?
Cool.
Sometimes I get better at singing, and sometimes it feels